Hello, and welcome to a new episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. I am your host, Katerina. Each week, we dive into a blend of topics that resonate with the soul. Whether you're an architect enthusiast, have a passion for Wanderlust, want to discover holistic approaches to rejuvenate your body and mind, or are intrigued to learn about Vastu Shastra with a modern approach, you've come to the right place. Join me as I sit down with inspiring, like-minded women from various walks of life. We will delve into their journeys to discuss the challenges and moments that define their paths. So sit back, relax, and let the spark of positive energy ignite your curiosity. Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode. I'm joined by Karla Jaimes, an expert real estate agent in Miami. Her incredible knowledge of the area helps prospective buyers find their ideal home. Karla is your go-to source, especially for the newest developments being built along the Edgewater coast. Karla, welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast.
Super excited, Katerina. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and as I mentioned when we got on the call, I'm excited because you're the first realtor I'm having on the podcast, and I can't wait to get your insight.
I feel honored.
So, as you know, we begin every episode by sharing something that we are grateful for in the present moment. What are you grateful for?
Well, I want to say I'm really grateful for the city that I'm living in right now. There is so much opportunity right now in South Florida. It's not to say that other locations don't have this, but it's really an exciting time right now. So really, really thankful for living here and having a community around me that's really helpful too.
Oh, I love that. And it is amazing how much growth there is. I know just following you on Instagram and your social media and just all of the new construction is incredible to see. Like it is booming.
Yeah, definitely. It's Miami in the last 3 years, honestly, has just boomed. Obviously, a lot of it was precipitated or, accelerated because of the COVID, and we saw such a vast majority of people coming from all over the United States, really, a lot of New Yorkers, people from California, so it really accelerated the development phase that we go through almost every 7 years. That's kind of like the waves that we go through in real estate. And then on the other side, we are also seeing a lot of international people, continuously investing even more than before. I'm originally from Peru, and I grew up in the States since I was 12. And I also have that side of my business that it's, Latin based. And a lot of international investors are, consistently trying to see where they can allocate their money in a secure place, and also investing and obviously growing their wealth, right? So it's really exciting. Really, Miami is going through a lot of development, and it's an exciting time to be here.
I love it. And so can you share with us kind of your journey to become a realtor and what brought you to Miami?
Absolutely. So I used to live in Sarasota, and how I got into real estate is interesting. I was actually 2021. The whole reason how I got started was because my parents were actually on the verge of losing their home during the crash in 2009. And during the moment that they were losing their property, I had the means during that time. I was like 21, I had a job, I had excellent credit, and I was able to help get a home, as a single first time home buyer, if you will, right? and be able to provide them a home because they lost the other one, right? So they needed a place to move to, especially because once you lose a home on foreclosure or short sale or anything like that, it has a huge impact on your credit, So for you to be able to get another home quickly, you have to wait years. So luckily during that time, I was able to do that. And as I got into the process, mind you, I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know, somebody just presented it to me. They're like, hey, looks like you have a good credit. You should look into this. So I did. And during that time, they were giving a lot of programs to help incentivize buyers to go back into the market. So I took advantage of those programs. I looked more into them and we had a home again. It was really exciting. After I did that, I realized a little bit of how much I like the process and also understanding that I was able to not only do that, but I was able to continuously acquire properties and rent them out in order to build wealth. So I started basically from a need, but then I translated that into an investment opportunity. So every 2 years or so, I started working on my job that I was working at a time, which was in corporate, save, have enough money for a down payment, right? And invest in the next property. And then that's how I started building my portfolio today. So that's how I started in real estate as an investor, really. So
That's amazing.
yeah. I actually moved to Miami about almost like 9 years ago. And as I moved here, I was already investing, again, still on a corporate job. And I saw really how much opportunity here, how diverse real estate was here, right? So I kept doing some investments. And then I was talking so much about it because I really, really love, super passionate about building wealth through real estate. And a lot of people started telling me, you should sell real estate. You're always talking about it. My friends were like you're trying to incentivize us to get into investing and things like that, getting our own place instead of renting because Miami, it's a high rent, right? A lot of people rent here. So I would always tell my friends, get out of the rat race and just buy a property, and like make it yours, and then if you need to move, you rent it out and then you have something that's on your own. So yeah, and then shortly after that, I decided to get my license and actually start getting into the selling side of real estate, which now is really exciting, helping other people get their own properties, relocate to Miami, invest. A lot of wealth building is what my passion is about.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love that you're helping so many people build wealth. And there is something about real estate as a great investment. And especially, it sounds like in South Florida with all of the new development. That's incredible. Coming from California, for us, it's now the rent is also fairly high. It's pretty much getting close to mortgage rates. And it has been incredible. And my husband and I have been having conversations about, is it worth buying a home here? And it's just, prices have just skyrocketed here, unfortunately. And so, but it's great to see that there is still those opportunities, especially in like the Miami area, and that people are able to come and invest. And so when you are looking at a place for investment, what is like one of the main things you look for as far as like how do you know if it's a good investment?
You definitely want to look at the location. I want to say I always look at a place that I know it's going to grow. If you're buying the investment, obviously to rent it out, you want to make sure that you have your numbers on how much are the rental values around the area and also making sure that you see the projection for the area in the future. I usually say, like, if you are looking at a specific area and there's development, there's new grocery stores coming, there's like new roads, there's maybe new transportation, coming, normally that's a good sign because then people are going to live around those areas. So yes, with that said, like I usually look for those patterns and then find the property, obviously, that will give you cash flow, right? Because you usually, as an investor, I usually like to leverage debt, which is the bank, right? And then you have to see those numbers too, because you kind of have to find the happy medium on how much down payment you're going to put for you to be able to sustain that mortgage, but then also cash flow at the same time, right? Right now, with the mortgage rates being where they are, it's becoming a little more difficult. It's true, right? However, I usually say to people, like, I don't think there should be an impediment for you to invest. If anything, it should be something that you're able to use it as leverage to be able to negotiate more upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps like leveraging more on the price, something that we couldn't do a couple of years ago. Like a couple of years ago, it was like bidding wars,
Mm-hmm.
over asking price offers. Yes, your rate was lower, but then you were also paying higher on the price. So today we have to see where we are today and find those ways to be able to still invest, making sure that it's a good investment, but not stay still, because a lot of people today, what's happening is that they're waiting, right? That's what's happening right now all across the US. They're waiting to see where the rates go, right? And what they're not seeing is that everybody's doing that. And the moment that the rates go down, everybody's going to go back to the market. So all that's going to happen there is that we're going to see again a shift of low inventory because we don't have still, high inventory yet. And you're going to see a mass amount of people coming to the market at the same time. So you're going to get again the bidding wars, like the over asking price offer. So it's probably not the best, strategy either. So
no, that's really interesting to hear. So each week I go to a realtor meeting here in Orange County to help network because I've noticed networking with realtors has been really helpful. And so I've been kind of getting some idea of the low inventory and understanding now more some of the real estate terms. And it's interesting to see. And like you just said, everybody's waiting. And I know there's a lot of people who especially bought homes, years and years ago with low interest rates. And now they don't want to move into another home because the interest rates are too high. And so there is always like thinking about making that leap to that new property. So it's interesting to hear. And it's incredible how it is across the country. And so it seems like it's always kind of like a roller coaster. Like there's the highs and the lows. And so right now, would you say we're kind of in this like holding? Is that kind of a low, slower time? And then it kind of peaks up and the bidding wars are that peak time of like when to buy?
no, I want to say like right now it's just kind of plateauing a little bit. It's a good sign because but what's happening before what was different than any other time in history, I think, is that there was so much demand because obviously of the rates, right? Which we historically we had not seen, right? Like 2.5, 2.8, like that's almost free money, right? So it's interesting because the appreciation of the properties were going up so high because of how many people were buying at the same time. So usually you would see like the depreciation go like this, and during that time it was going like this. So now it's coming back to standard, to a healthy market, to a normal market, to a market that you want to get in and be able to look at the property, maybe check it out a second time, compare it to another property, do your numbers with your mortgage lender, make a good offer, negotiate a bit little on the price. That's a healthy standard market. But you can only do that when you don't have as much demand going on. So otherwise, you go back to, again, a couple of years ago where you couldn't even think. You couldn't even see the property. You could see the pictures and send your offer and make it strong enough to see if you beat the other 10 offers that you have up front of you. So it's definitely interesting. I would say today's market is this year specifically. I think it's a good time for buyers. Like, I think it's a really good time for buyers to look into the property, be able to negotiate some of the price, maybe negotiate some of closing costs, and be able to get in, especially in South Florida, because the prices are not going down. So if the prices don't go down, no matter what rate you have, you could always refinance in the future, but you can't change the price because we are seeing that Miami is they just released a report that said that Miami has the highest appreciation in the US. So we already know that whoever wants to stay here in Miami, live here in Miami, the prices won't go down. That's a given. So then the time is now. Otherwise, you're just gonna buy higher in the future.
I want to talk to you about the new development, especially in Edgewater. I've been seeing the incredible skyscrapers going up. And as an architect, it's been so fascinating to see how quickly the development has gone and just even the designs and everything that they're including, the amenities in all of these. I know there was one you recently posted about, it's those two towers. And just seeing how you're living in a hotel and it's absolutely gorgeous. So, are you noticing that people are also interested in purchasing places where you have all these amenities, where you feel like you're being taken care of rather than just a regular skyscraper with all you had was like a doorman?
Yeah, no, I mean, most towers here in Miami have a lot of amenities. Obviously you're here in a with a weather that is hot. It's the weather's actually really nice here. That's the reason why a lot of people move here, right? So you have to have all these amenities, including the pool. A lot of people that are moving too, especially with the new developments, they're moving from other states and they're making this their home. So you have to have all these things around, like if you don't have a house, right? Then you want to have all this included in the property. So yes, the newer developments definitely are very catering to people that are going to be residing the property. So they want to make it definitely an experience. Aria Reserve is one of the ones that you mentioned. It's going to be the tallest twin towers south of New York, 62 stories. So, and then you're facing right on the water. So if you're trying to buy a property that has prime view of the bay, this is your option, right? Nobody's blocking you. There's no more land in front of you. So that's why land here in Miami, like especially all that, strip that's right next to the bay, it's expensive because you're buying views that are unblocked. Anything else that comes behind that, you probably will be able to see some of the views, but you're not getting the first line. So it's a really interesting what the developments are doing now. A lot of developments are doing larger units now because they're seeing that there's going to be a massive wave of migration still coming from New York, and people want space. Obviously, they want to buy not just a studio, they're looking for 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. They're trying to bring even their families. A lot of the new developments are thinking ahead 5, 7 years from now, where they're already expecting this wave of new residents coming through. We're also seeing that there's going to be new developments around the schools here. Miami, for a long time, wasn't really known for having the best schools. However, now that we're seeing all these corporates, Blackstone, all these hedge funds moving their corporations here to Brickell, which is our financial center. So moving here, they haven't even moved their corporates yet. We know that they have already bought the office space, but as soon as they move, guess who's going to move with them? Their employees. Their employees, their families, and they're going to need proximity to where they work. So they're going to look for lifestyle, they're going to look for space, they're going to look for schools, they're going to look for all these things, right? So now the skyscrapers that are being built, they're being catered a lot to like what's going to come. So it's really becoming a home in a tower. Yeah, a lot of that is going on.
That's like I said, from an architectural standpoint, that is really, really fascinating to me because I work in residential, but it's single home residential. So the way I work with realtors is a realtor will introduce me to a client because they've sold them the house and then the client wants to remodel or do an addition and things like that. But it's amazing to think that there's, these developers and these teams of architects and contractors already thinking so far in advance to the wave that's coming. And so do you get a chance to work with architects or contractors?
Not directly, especially my main niche is condos around, the metro area of Miami, right? I live in Edgewater, beautiful area here right next to downtown. But the metro area is composed of Brickell, downtown, Edgewater, Midtown, right? So a lot of that area you'll find only condos, right? Towers. So, and a lot of these buildings do come already down. Now, I do work with interior designers that you usually work with, especially if the condo doesn't come completely done, that they want their own touch, right? So then yes, we work with interior designers to help our buyers kind of put their own touch on their property. I also do single family properties in the nearby neighborhoods such as Coral Gables, Miami Shores. They're the closest neighborhoods around downtown in the metro area, and those are single family properties. So we do see a lot of people that are, if they do buy those properties, they're either already renovated, or if they're looking to renovate them, that's when we work with architects, of course, and interior designers. A lot of the areas there in Coral Gables and Miami Shores are properties from the 60s, from the 50s. So yes, unless you already buy a home that's been already redone, unless you buy that, you have the other ones that you have to do some sort of renovation, remodeling, just to bring them up to date because of coding.
Of course, of course. And I want to talk about one thing that I like that you share on even social media is when there was one post you had about sharing all the different coffee spots, like I think it was in Edgewater. And I think that's a
Oh
really
yeah.
great marketing tool
Yeah.
is to highlight, once you make it a home or you're making an investment, you understand the businesses around. And I think that's also a very smart tactic because you are like in marketing, because you're also bringing in the businesses and kind of I guess, yeah, marketing them so that the clients know here's what you can do. And it makes it that much more, I think, exciting to move there because you can start to picture yourself. Like, I love going to a coffee shop near me. And so when you posted that, I was like, oh, I could even see myself. And there was all the different places to go. And I really like that. How did you come up with marketing, for example, just the coffee shops?
I think it came as an idea on like showing more of my lifestyle here. I live in Edgewater. I love, love, love this area. Once you start working with a realtor, you start seeing the differences between each area. All of them have condos, but they're different. Every area is different. So, my area is very family oriented. It has a beautiful park in front of it. So I farm it in the sense that I want my clientele to know how it is to live here. So I would usually post like my walks in the morning with my dog, walking out of my condo, going straight to the park, seeing the beautiful bay out there, being able to have a Zen space 7:30 in the morning, and having a coffee shop right there that you can just stop and like have your cafecito on. So it's really like about showing you, hey, this is what your life could be like. And obviously, like also, that's the lifestyle part, because we can talk all about the different towers and I can give you highlights, but how is that feeling of living in a condo, especially if you're coming from living in a house and you're moving here and you don't, you want to live in an area that's close to everything, you likely, or depending on your budget, you likely will be able to find a condo, right? So that's the lifestyle that I'm trying to show, and a lot of it has to do with coffee shops, restaurants, gyms. People here tend to take care of themselves a lot.
Yes.
As you can know, it's Miami. So to highlight the gyms, there's so many gyms for every style of person that you are, So it's interesting. I really love showing that.
No, and I think that's great, and I think it just makes that dream of owning a place just so much more of a reality for your clients. So I think that's a great approach because it's a lot of people in it are making this investment and they want to move, and it's hard to sometimes imagine. And I like that you brought up the point of moving from a house to a condo because that's something we had this really nice development come up in Dana Point where I live, and it's a lot of condo living. And like I live in an apartment, but I have a little grassy area, and I remember thinking, talking to my husband, I'm like, because I used to also live in Chicago, where I lived in obviously condos and apartments. And so I said, I wonder if I could move back into a condo, but this doesn't have as many amenities as it sounds like it has, like in Edgewater and in your neighborhood. But there's so many cute little shops, and it's really interesting to see how people also interact with the spaces once they're built. Again, I'm thinking about this from such an architectural standpoint of like, it's amazing to see then how people end up using the spaces. And I love that there's a coffee shop right after when you walk outside. So it really sounds like a really nice area. And so then I want to come back to the investment properties and kind of building your investment portfolio. So if there's someone listening who's like, whoa, this sounds really interesting, how can I get started? Maybe they have a little bit in the bank and they're like, yeah, I'd like to start investing in properties. What's kind of the first thing that they can do?
I want to say it's important to understand where you want to invest and potentially speak to somebody that is very knowledgeable about that area. Like if you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm open to seeing Miami or South Florida, then talk to a realtor that understands that market. But on top of that, also talk to a realtor that understands investments, because a lot of realtors here, they are knowledgeable about condos, right? And living, like for living purposes, but right, but not for investment. So I primarily do a lot of my mindset is more on the investment part. The product's important. If that's your lifestyle, we can get you a condo. But if you're looking at numbers, then the condo might not be the best driver, right? So very important to sit down with a knowledgeable realtor and kind of understand, okay, where do you want to go from here? What is your goal, your end goal, and once we see that, then we can start strategizing going back, because at some point it's going to be important to look at the numbers, right? And the numbers come from, okay, this is the down payment that you have, let's talk to a mortgage lender, let's see how much you can get approved for, because that will give us light on, okay, based on this pre-approval that you have, maybe Miami metro is not your area. Maybe we have to go a little bit northern. Maybe we have to go a little more south. And that's the magic number. And once we look into that, then we can see the different properties. We can see what cash flows, what doesn't. We can see the areas that have the better rents. A cash flow property is highly, highly driven by how the rents are in a particular area. So that's very important. But the main thing I would say is to speak to somebody, get mentorship from someone that has already either done it, for sure done it, but that's consistently doing it too, because a lot of people did it once. That's not the point. You have to consistently do it, because the market changes, the areas change, and things like that.
Oh, interesting. That's great advice. You've had me thinking. Like, I just don't know if I could afford in California. Like, for example, the property. So my apartments line up against like a residential area, and I know it's like tract homes. And the one neighbor that we can see from that I can see right here from where I'm sitting is and they sold it. And I love going on Redfin, by the way. Zillow, I'm always anytime we go somewhere. We were just in Montecito, and I love looking at real estate. It's just so fun and just but so why I know this is so the house was sold for 900,000 in 2019 and it just sold for 1.7 million. So that is just in 5 years it almost doubled in price, which is scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Appreciation
Yeah.
is everything. It's like, that's why I always say to people, like, you're thinking
Mhm.
of the numbers today, but just
Yeah.
think the numbers in 5 years. Like, Just, I know it might hurt you today, but, because of the shock, but just imagine the 5 years. And I know because I've seen it on my properties. There's different types of real estate ways, investments that you can go about it. Some people do wholesaling, other people do flips, right? Buy, redone, resell, right? I do selling, right? And then you have the investor that's long term. I'm a long term investor. I buy properties to rent and see the appreciation because I guess my risk, and my time where I'm going to see my wealth, it's on the appreciation. Because then once you appreciate it, you could either resell it or you could refinance it, take your cash out and reinvest on another one. That's how really a lot of wealthy real estate investors have done their money. They bought, reinvested, got to the next one, right? So that's really the key, and to do that, you can't see, real estate as a quick make money. That's not the goal, is to really see it from a timeline future. So definitely exciting. It's very exciting, really, to see exactly how you can invest in something today and see it grow in a matter of 5 years. So
No, absolutely. And it is like you said, it's like a marathon, not a sprint. Like you have to it is a sprint. Right, because you have to buy the property, but then the long game is of then seeing the appreciation, like even the 5 years. I mean, that was incredible to see how this property pretty much doubled, right in front of our eyes. So that's kind of it's been incredible to see. So and then across the United States too, is I want to talk to about how you said the low interest rates again. And then how do you know or how can you foresee when interest rates will go down? Is there anything I'm asking this because I have no idea who controls the interest rates or anything, but is there anything you can kind of foresee that may reduce the interest rates? Is there anything I know like and going through COVID that changed everything, but is there any way you can kind of see if interest rates can go down?
I don't think you can time it. I don't think you can time it. I mean, obviously, the ones that control the interest rates is the Fed, and they have these meetings, and they obviously release their notes, and then everybody kind of like, oh, they're going to lower, they're going to rise. It's all the news, right? But I'll be honest with you, ever since I started, I never try to time the market. I never was looking at the rate. Mind you, when I first got my first property, I didn't even understand about interest rates. So I don't know exactly what I was paying. Maybe I was paying something higher. What I did know is that I needed to cash flow. I did know that. Like I needed to buy something that would sustain on its own, that would leave me not a lot, because I wasn't looking for high rentability, high return, but just, enough so that it would pay on its own. So I don't try to focus on the rate at all. I just try to focus if I can make that mortgage payment, if the rent can sustain the mortgage payment. And that I think alleviates a lot of pressure from buyers, because then you're not in this of when it's a good time to buy, it's like it's always a good time to buy. Today is a good time to buy. And let me tell you why. Because a lot of people don't think about this, but you could be sitting today with a job, right? And have your credit being great and with a down payment and everything. And you're just waiting for the time for the market to go down or the rates to go down. What happens in 3 months? You lose your job. Then you're no longer qualified because you need to have an active job to be able, with 2 years, concurrent, to be able to apply, right? On most conventional loans, I would say. There's other options, but the conventional ones look at that. So then you're no longer qualified if you have that. So people don't think about that. They think that they're always going to be qualified. But what happens if something changes in your whole strategy? Then you're no longer ready. So I always say, if you're ready today, if we get you qualified with a mortgage lender and everything lines up and you can sustain your mortgage payment, and you find a good property, then today is the right time for you. So especially if you're investing, because investing you're always doing, right? But if you're a first time home buyer and you've really been wanting to buy a property and you're just looking at your numbers and you're just seeing if it's the right time or not, well, let's look at your numbers. If you are approved, then it's a good time for you, because we can probably find something that hopefully is going to, especially today, right? That you're able to at least look around, right? That's going to hopefully match your needs, right? And then I always say, like, a property is not going to be 100% perfect. There's going to be an area that you're going to have to come to agreements with, right? But that's the beauty of it, right? There's something that you're going to find more important, you're going to prioritize versus some other ones. So there's always options. It's always a good time to buy. That's my main point here.
I love the positivity because it makes sense. It's you have the money. It's going back to like you can't foresee the future with the interest rates. You can't foresee the future if you may get let go or, whatever is going to happen. So I think
Nobody has a crystal ball, I can tell you. Nobody, everybody that would tell you, oh yeah, nobody has a crystal ball. So we can only, people will tell you, well, it's, election year. Usually during, historically speaking, during election years, they start putting the rates down. That's historically known. But are you going to wait? Are you going to do exactly what
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is doing? It's like, it's not the best strategy.
No, it seems like more of a gamble, and it's like going to Vegas, on big properties. So I love that you're saying, though, if you're ready, if you're approved and you have the finances, go for it. And you also touched on the subject of, not every property is going to have every absolute dream thing that you want. And that's just, things you have to decide, what's a priority for you. And so I think that's really interesting. And then do you have to help some clients sometimes, like if they keep looking at properties and they're like, I'm still looking for that perfect property? How do you kind of tell them, like, this property is great, it's the time to buy, but it won't have everything? Like, how do you help clients with that?
Sometimes you have to be on a role a psychologist. You really do. You
Yeah.
really do, but that's also the beauty of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
relationship, building, right? And trust. And you sometimes do have to have a sit down conversation like, okay, these are my must haves, these are my,
Mm-hmm.
want have, and these are like, I could go away with them, right? So, and you need to have that because especially when you are on a specific budget, right? I always say, like, if you have all the money in the world, we could probably get you, but even then, sometimes you can't. So, but if you are on a tight budget and the budget is the driver, right? Then we have to definitely, pick what the needs are versus the wants. And the main thing to say with that is that I will usually highlight what are the areas that you need to be more focused on. For example, location. You can't change the location of a property. You cannot. You can change the interior, you can adjust the home, you can make remodel the bathroom, the kitchen, you can add the pool if you want, but you can never change the community, the location. So that should be the main driver there, right? And then obviously the space is important for families, right? So understanding, okay, how much square footage you need, what are you, if you're a small family, are you planning on growing, And also, like, I usually say this, some people want to have the perfect home the first time. And I try to be really honest with them that sometimes, depending on where you are in life and your financials, that might not
Mm-hmm.
be like your dream home forever. Usually they say that usually families move houses every 7 years. That's the statistic. And why? Because obviously every so many years, like, your financials improve. You get a better job, you get better income, so then you are able to expand. But that shouldn't hold you today from buying that property that you can start with. Again, we go back to time. Those 7 years will help you grow that wealth, that equity that you have on that property. And then potentially keeping it, renting it, go to the next one that you want, or who knows, sell it. There's so many strategies there that you can go through. But my point is that you do that in order to be able to grow little by little into that huge dream home that you want. So I usually say, go with your means, what you can do today. You don't have to wait to get the perfect house. You don't have to wait to have the better salary. You can start today with where you are at and then keep building your portfolio little by little. And you'll see, how you are by the time that
Oh,
you
I
get
love
that
that.
dream
Yeah,
home.
no, I love that. And it's just stepping stones, essentially. And so it's stepping stones, and yeah, you're
Yeah.
not going to get that first perfect house. I love that. And then I want to conclude with one thing is, if there's someone listening, so we've talked about if they want to own, real estate, and if they're thinking about growing their portfolio. If there's a listener who's thinking about becoming a realtor, what would your advice be for a listener who's like, this sounds really interesting, to be in your shoes, essentially? So advice could you give to them if they're thinking about starting out?
I would definitely have them get guidance from somebody that has been in the business to understand also what they want, what their goal is to become a realtor, right? A lot of people start because of the money. The money's great, but you're also your own business. You become your own business. So it's very important to get guidance from people that have already been there to see exactly what you want from your future, right? Because the money will come, but there's a lot of stresses that
Yes.
come with it. You're a business owner too. So
Yes.
you like what it is to be marketing
Mm-hmm.
and and sales and accounting and all these things because you want to treat it as a business, right? Not just like let business come to you. You have to go seek the business. And with that, you have to do a lot of marketing. You have to invest in your business. And that's really the way that people become successful at it, you know? So I would say definitely get guidance from somebody that has been in, at least in the business anywhere between 4 or 5 years, and that is successful at what they're doing today, and just mimic them, right? And find that one that you feel like you want to have their lifestyle, because they might be 5 years in the business. I always say this: you might have a realtor that has been 5 years in the business with no experience, just 5 years waiting for things to come to them. But 5 years of actual experience building business is a whole different story. So I would say get a mentor first.
That's really great advice, Karla. Thank you so much. I hope listeners take away a lot from this. This has been so interesting for me, just listening to you talk about, real estate and then, growing a portfolio and investing. I have really learned a lot from this conversation. So thank you so much.
I'm excited. Excited. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope that,
Yes,
this helps someone for sure, and that it impacts their life. That's the goal. That's the goal here in life. To
absolutely.
impact more lives.
Absolutely. And where can listeners find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Karla J_RE. I also have a YouTube channel now. It's Karla J Sells Miami. So definitely look me up there. And then if you're looking to either relocate to South Florida, or you're looking to start investing in South Florida, let's definitely connect and let's get you moving.
I love it. Thank you so much, Karla.
Thank you, Katerina. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. As we conclude, I want to express my gratitude for joining me in today's episode. I hope you have found it insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and click that like button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to share this with your friends. You can follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast, and you can also further your support of From the Honeycomb by visiting the Patreon link provided in the show notes. Your contribution helps make more episodes possible. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter, A Spark of Positive Energy, that comes out on the 7th of each month. Thank you so much, and see you next Friday.